Alright, welcome back. We're now on project number 12. So for project number 12, it's going to get a little hairy, especially for from what it looks like in box number 2. But for project number 12, what we're looking at here is in box number 1, you have a lamp holder that is controlled by a light switch in number 3. This light switch in box number 3 not only controls that lamp holder, but it also controls half of this outlet. And the second half of this outlet in box number 2 has 100% power. Kind of makes the wiring a little funky, especially by the looks of this project if you were to view the other side, because not only is your power coming in through box number 1, keep in mind that we're not just going to simply just wire this power in directly into that light, the lamp holder. Because if we were to do that, this lamp holder, the light would never turn off. So we're going to relay that power from box number 1, take it right into box number 2, and we're just going to go right ahead and just wire in the half of the outlet that has 100% power. It's got all the heat that it would need, not controlled by a light switch. We have a little jump wire for that. And also, if you notice that this power, this 100% power, we're using a red wire, color coding. So we're going to go from this red wire here in box number 2, that's 100% energy, and relay it over to our light switch in box number 3. In box number 3, we then take a black wire, and this is where the power that's controlled by a switch comes into play. Black wire, relaying over to box number 2. That black wire has a little jump wire. And all I had was just a tiny little piece of red wire, so I just went ahead and used it. So that portion of the outlet would then be controlled by the light switch. We then take a second black wire. That black wire is going over through to box number 1, and that black wire is then controlling our light. And then from there, we just relay all of our neutrals back over to our power in. Looks a little complicated on this scenario, especially with the wiring for box number 2, but relatively easy put together. Just that box number 2 is going to get a little messy with the number of jumps. Granted, if you were to draw this out, if you wanted to put together your jumps in either box number 3, or heck, if you were able to pull it off in box number 1, hey, as they always say, more than one way to skin a cat. For me, I find it easier to have our little jump wires tied into our outlet in box number 2. So that would be our scenario for our projects in project number 12. So how do we go about getting there? So I'm just going to go ahead and start tying in our first appliance, and that would be our outlet. Keep in mind, we're using a half-hot outlet labeled an H, as well as a broken bracket connecting our 2 terminals for our outlet. All right, continue on utilizing the same color coding with a red wire for our constant energy. Box number 1, to kind of speed up this process, I just went ahead and just tied in our hot wires. So we would then take our 3 red wires, the red wire that comes from box number 1 and the red wire that goes to box number 3, you then tie into our jump on the outlet. So there's our first jump. That's our constant heat. We'll then relay that constant heat over to our single pull, single throw. And box number 3. Oops. Okay, so there's our constant energy. Now, just the energy that's going to be controlled by the outlet. Let's go ahead, relay that through our different boxes and appliances. That energy that's controlled by the switch is going to be through our black wire. So the first black wire, of course, hook it up to your light switch. Here we go. There's our wire coming that's going to start at our switch. We're going to go ahead and move on over to box number 2. You would have to connect that that hot wire. Let's trim that. Let's start fresh. So this is our wire here. That is coming from box number 3. You'd have to hook up a wire that is going to be supplying power to your outlet, as well as supplying power that's going to control that lamp holder. Hold on, we're getting crossed up here. So, trying to make a pigtail, don't need a pigtail. What I need is a jump. So I'm taking this black wire, I'm gonna hook up a jump to it. I'm gonna go ahead and just hook up this jump over to our outlet. Getting ahead of myself here. So, we're going to tie in these 3 hot wires. The 2 black wires, one that goes from my light switch, the other one that is going to our lamp holder. We're going to tie that into our wire, the little jump that hooks up to our outlet. Okay, and there is our second jump. We're going to follow this black wire, and it goes over to our box number 1 that's going to be hooked up to our lamp holder. All right. Now from there, we have all of our hot wires connected from our light switch to our outlet to our lamp holder. From this point, all I have left are just my neutrals. Let's go ahead, let's start easy here. In box number 3, I do not have a neutral that's going to be connected, so we're just going to set this one aside. In box number 2, let's remove this wire nut here. This neutral is not utilized. That leads over to box number 3. Let me clarify. So that neutral that leads over to box number 3 is not utilized. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make a pigtail on this and then tie that into the outlet. So there's our neutral that goes from our outlet, and we just have, and it's okay only to have one neutral because if you look very closely, our bracket here is still intact that connects these two terminals. So regardless of whether you have energy that goes to either one of these two, because this is going to have constant energy and this is going to be controlled by a light switch, even if the light switch is off, you're still going to be able to relay that neutral energy back over to your power source. That's okay, only to have that one neutral. From there, I'll have my two neutrals. I'm going to utilize this this bracket here, two terminals that are connected in our lamp holder. Okay, now move on to my grounds. Box number 1. I just have the ground from my cable that's hooked up to my box and relayed to boxes 2 and 3. We'll go ahead and hook up our grounds to our outlet. Sometimes this happens, our ground wire just broke. give off a little bit more. Okay, there's our ground in box 2. Now, ground for our light switch. We have it. So there we have our light switch controlling both of our one half of the outlet as well as the lamp holder and the second half of an outlet that has consistent energy, both utilizing tie-ins, jumps in box number 2. And that concludes our project number 12.